So this is the same photographer of the last gym photo. We're going to do a different one. This one I think we can crop to have a high impact on a kind of a square dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and download this one. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and start to get this cropped. Let's kind of have her in the center because it's such a great photo opportunity to center align. It's such a nice symmetrical photo. So let's keep it center aligned. And let's zoom in on her because when you have a zoomed out image, you kind of lose the emotional impact. So with a lot of my projects, I like to zoom in when I can to kind of have more emotional impact. So I'm going to have what if this was you in 30 days, kind of like a 30-day challenge for the gym. What could you look like in 30 days? So here we're going to go ahead and type that out. So let's go ahead and copy and paste. Let's make this a different text box. So let's hold down Option and drag to create a duplicate. And let's do the 30. And this is where, when condensed typography, you might like the characters, but you may not like the numerals. So you might like the letters, but not the numerals. So in this case, that 30 looks really kind of immature. I don't know why. I mean, it's a great characters, but the numbers, just not liking the 3. And that's okay. That's when we can go in. Let's try Como or Komu A. That looks a little bit more sporty, I think, in my opinion. Let's tighten the tracking just a little bit to kind of match the condensed version up there. And then I think that looks a little bit better. And let's duplicate this top since we like letters and do days. So what if this was you in 30 days? So we need to figure out how to work this entire headline in. And there's a lot there. So there's a couple tricks we can do. We already are using condensed typefaces, so let's do outlines and overlap some things to kind of create a modern look. So to create outlined text in Photoshop, here's what you need to do. So I have this layer selected right here. I'm going to go ahead and double click over here in the empty space. I'm going to bring up my layer styles panel, and I'm just going to click on stroke. And here is the trick. That's kind of not really intuitive. You're going to have stroke. So let's say we want to have white, or maybe like an off-white outline. I'm going to click OK. So what we need to do is get rid of the fill inside. So let's go ahead and we have our layer selected. We're going to go down to fill. We're going to go ahead and reduce fill, which is right here. We're going to go ahead and bring it down to 0, and that will just leave the stroke. So if I want to change the thickness of the stroke, I just double click, get my layers panel, and I can adjust it right here. So let's say I want to make it a little bit skinnier, and what's kind of in is kind of a thin kind of stroke. Like this is a little bit too thin. You want to make sure it's readable. So maybe 2 pixels on this one, or even 1.5. A lot of times I like to split the difference, and it looks like it's not letting me. So I guess we're going to have to go with 2 on this one. And you could do inside, outside. Sometimes the outside could look really nice too. It kind of extends the thickness of the character when you go inside or outside, and then inside brings it in, and then the center just kind of splits the difference. So let's do center, and we're going to keep everything the same. And you can even save a layer style. So I go over this in courses, some of the stuff you may have already heard before, but review is always really good. So I can save this layer style. So let's create new style and say outlined type. Click OK. So I save this. I don't have to do this over and over. So I can open up my library. So you go, where can I load a layer style? So I'm going to go to Windows, Styles. There it is right there. It is right at the very bottom. So I can click on days and go ahead and apply the same exact style to it. So here's what I want to do, kind of overlap this. Let's put 30 all the way in the back, and let's put some color in this. Let's make 30 a different color. Let's go ahead and stick with a theme here. Let's kind of go with that same kind of sunset color from that side. I think the pink adds some femininity, some softness to it. So you see when you have this outline type, I can now easily have readable, I can read all that. If this was you in 30 days, I could still see you and N, even though this is like taking up almost all of that background. That's kind of the power of outlined typography. So now I can layer this and have this on top just like that. It looks kind of cool. And so I want to be able to integrate the woman into this a little bit more. So let's bring the type over, give it the layered look. I can bring all this behind her. So she's peeking over, and I can then add shadows to make it look like she's really in there. Of course, it's outline type, so you're not going to really see it quite as good as some of the other ones. Just changing the distance and the size. There it is. You can kind of see a little bit of a shadow peeking through there. And once again, let's make her black and white. So let me make sure she is a smart object. Right click, smart object. Let's go and make her black and white. You don't have to do this to every photo. I just like how suddenly, if you take the color out, that 30 just like really pops out at you. That's why we're doing it. It's to make sure we, as designers, we're the ones who control what the viewer's eye focuses on. So we are in total control. So we can always take color out to bring emphasis on other areas of color. So you can change this however you want. You can pair a outline type with a filled in type, and that can work really well. So you can arrange this however you like. You can use a different photo when you do your project. I want to go ahead and borrow this texture. I already kind of like it, so let's just bring it on over. Click on Artboard 3 and just pasting it in. And I'm going to put the woman on top because I want her to be nice and clear and crisp. And there we go. There's our kind of background texture that we can bring in. And there we have it. We just created 3 social media posts, some that use condensed fonts and some that use outline fonts and kind of styles and characteristics as well. So I think this is great. It's a very practical trend. I see this a lot just since coming up with this trend, or really kind of picking this as a 2021 trend. I've seen it everywhere on social media. It's already been in use for a while, but I just think you're going to see more of it because it is kind of a useful as you can see, it's very useful for packing in a lot of information. Instagram really loves saves instead of likes. So people save content that's packed, has lots of content in it. And if you can find creative ways to work in helpful content or quotes or whatever, it's going to be helpful. So you don't have to use all caps. I used all capital letters for these headlines. You don't have to do that. You could do whatever you want. So just kind of giving you some tools and some practical projects to use to make your designs not only look more modern, fresh, and updated, but also practical.